This needs to be a video. I just finished chapter 1138 of One Piece, and I think this might be the biggest single chapter we have ever received when it comes to the lore of the Void Century. Now, we are just in the beginning of the Elbaf arc, and I'm sure we'll get more information as time comes, but this mural, as well as the story of the three worlds, is big. We are in the final saga, so we knew big answers were coming, but yeah. Okay, to recap, we know that this chapter talks a lot about the Giant's interpretation of Nika, and how everyone has their own interpretation of what Nika actually was. Some think he's a joyful god who liberates people, some think he's a destroyer, some think he's a warrior. Everyone has their own interpretation. And they have this book that's divided into 3 chapters about the 3 worlds, because apparently the world has been destroyed 2 times over, and we're on the 3rd world now. Now, I've been staring at this picture for a while, and I'm just gonna spitball some of my ideas towards it. If you're new to this, this is not usually the kind of content I make, but I want to remember this. Let's go through the books to begin with. The first world. There was fire upon the earth. Humanity succumbed to desire and touched the forbidden sun. The slaves made a wish, and the god of the sun appeared. But the god of the earth became enraged, and alongside the serpent of hell enveloped the world in death and darkness. They could never meet again. The second world. There was a breath upon the emptiness. The god of the forest sent forth demons. The sun merely spread the embers of war. The people of the half-moon dreamed. The people of the moon dreamed. Humanity killed the sun, and then ascended to divinity. The god of the sea became enraged. They could never meet again. The third world. There was void upon the chaos. The unbidden shadows remember the day of the promise, and they hear the voice of the fragmented moon. The god of the sun dances and laughs, guiding the world to its end. The sun will return, and a new dawn will come. They will surely meet again. Okay, so let's just take it book by book, because this is a lot, and I feel like we need to kind of segment this a bit. There was fire upon the earth, humanity succumbed to its desire and touched the forbidden sun. I've seen people say that the forbidden sun are like the first devil fruits. I don't really agree with that. In fact, I think that the forbidden sun, especially going by the mural, is the infinite mother flame, the infinite source of energy that Vegapunk was trying to replicate. The thing that powered Emmet and the Void Century's entire civilization. This is the first world, which means that this is not part of the Void Century, but rather even older history, but I do think it could be the same energy source. The reason I think this is because we know that they had something akin to a mother flame thanks to Enel's cover story on the moon, where we see the schematics for what looks like a mother flame, or fusion. From how the mother flame operates, it's essentially fission, and then the infinite mother flame would be fusion. The reason I think this is because of this sector right here. We see a giant area with gears and machines, and a city built on top of it with smoke coming out, clearly representing a technological area. Like this is a industrial revolution type idea. And from what we see, we have suns. People holding little suns, giving them over to the city. AKA, what I'm taking from this is they are fueling the city, the energy of the city, or civilization, with suns, right? This part interests me a lot, though. So there was fire on the earth, and humanity touched the forbidden sun, aka the energy source. This part interests me because we have the little guys here, and we have the little guys here who are holding the sun, right? We also see that there's little halos above these little guys, right? So one way that I interpret this is that the infinite power is essentially gained through the sacrifices of slaves. As we see, they use slaves, and they're somehow able to take the life energy or something from slaves and use that as their infinite energy source to fuel their city. And then the idea is that, as we see, the slaves are essentially killed, giving the people who own the slaves, I'm assuming, an infinite energy source that they would use to fuel things like the Maxim, which I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be. I think this is supposed to be the Maxim. We also see the moon over here. As we know, the moon is hollow, and functions as a factory alongside having the schematics for the infinite energy. But here it says, the slaves made a wish, and the god of the sun appeared, but the god of the earth became angry. So the way that I interpret this, and something I should make clear immediately, is the reason everyone seems to have a different idea about Nika is because I don't think Nika as like a god deity ever actually showed up. I think it's always been the devil fruit. And I think these are different people having the Nika fruit, right? The Nika who liberated people is not the same Nika that like went to war. You understand what I mean? But like in the Giants mythology, it has become the same person because they all use the same fruit. So the slaves made a wish, and the god of the sun appeared. Essentially, the slaves were saved by someone who had eaten the Nika fruit, right? But the god of the earth became enraged. The god of the earth, probably just the person who was ruling at the time. Like, either just straight up Emu, or someone who was way before Emu. Just that time period's Emu, basically. Although they are carrying the energy to the city, they are also just straight up giving the energy to what kind of looks like Emu, doesn't it? And kind of jumping off course here, but we have the moon here, and we see, ignoring the big battle over here for the moment, we see what I'm assuming to be a flying ship with lightning bolts coming out of it, flying towards the earth. We see what looks like an Emu figure on a boat, with the boat that was in the sky earlier having crash landed on Earth. Or maybe not Earth, it's not called Earth, but you get my idea. And out of it comes people and animals. So what that tells me, and also winged people, sky people. And we know that the Birkins and the Skypeans and the Shandians all came from the moon. As we all know, the One Piece planet has multiple sets of moons, which is actually supported later on here. We'll get to that when we get to that. So clearly the Maxim crash lands. I'm assuming that they have Enel's Devil Fruit, given that the lightning that's coming off, they're probably powering their, I'm gonna call it a Maxim, but like it's probably just a rudimentary version of the Maxim, an airship. It crash lands and becomes part of the ruler's empire. I still think the God of the Earth is just the ruler of that time. Moving back to the book though, God of the Earth became enraged. Obviously, their slaves are being taken. They're super mad. This dumbass cloud guy is just fooling around and freeing all their slaves. That kind of sucks, right? And alongside the Serpent of Hell enveloped the world in death and darkness. I don't know what that is. In fact, both this and there was fire upon the earth. The fire upon the earth is more self-explanatory, I feel like. It's like the world is, I think it's literally on fire. The world sucks. Remember, there's not as much water at this point. The world sucks. Like, you can't grow things on the surface. Everything is on fire. Everything, like, is, I think, literally on fire just by climate. And it's bad. And if you think that it's weird with everything being on fire, I would like to remind you, this is the world of One Piece. There's an island where everything is just lightning. I don't doubt that the world was literally on fire. I'm sure that there's a reason the world was on fire, but I do think it was literally on fire. And I do think that the people essentially built their cities and, as by the looks of it, might have even built stuff underground and focused on sea travel, specifically because the world is on fire. The Serpent of Hell. I think this is something we just haven't seen yet. It might be connected to the Sea Kings. It might be that, like, the Sea Kings enveloped the world and were born from this moment on. But we see here that the Serpent from Hell is breathing fire towards this dragon, right? Which brings up another interesting idea. If this mural is depicting the first eight, then who is this dragon? Is this dragon the god of the earth? I don't think so, though. I find it weird to say that the god of the earth is a, winged creature. That sounds kind of weird, Anyway, so I'm not sure about the serpent. We might get back to that later, but for now, we're gonna stay away from that. Also, the smoke, it might be like Nika's clouds, speaking that, like, the city is liberated, but no, I think it's just smoke. I think it's to signify an industrial revolution, probably like multiple thousands of years ago. They could never meet. So clearly, someone is always trying to meet someone. We have what I'm assuming to be the Joy Boy is always trying to meet someone. So this makes me think of two things. A big theme in One Piece is of course that Luffy's entire quest is becoming King of the Pirate and meeting Shanks again, right? That's like a giant theme that they can never meet until Luffy achieves his giant goal. Now, I'm not saying that this is literally talking about Luffy and Shanks, but I do think that Luffy and Shanks are going to be a parallel to this situation, like a mentor-student type thing, or like an inspiration to person who was inspired, like carrying on a dream. And I do think that when One Piece is over, this is going to be something we look back on and go, oh my god, Oda foreshadowed everything from the start, oh my god, he's so clever, which, oh my god, he is. And this definitely feels like one of those things. Another thing that this makes me think about, and I feel embarrassed to even say this, okay, real talk, have you guys ever come across like these Luffy and Nami shipping accounts? Don't click off. I don't agree with it. I think it's stupid. But I got into an argument with a shipping account like way back. They had like this giant fucking post about how Luffy is the sun and Nami is the moon, and the entire story revolves around them meeting in a perfect eclipse or something. And I'll be honest, I didn't read the thread. I just called the guy a dumbass and moved on with my day. But yeah, that's... You know what, if that ends up being they could never meet again and it's gonna be about like Nami and Luffy, I guess I'll just have egg on my face. I guess I will eat my hat. I really doubt it. I do think that it's a parallel to the Shanks thing, and I do think that, I don't know, they could never meet again. We'll get back to this. Let's move on to the next book. The Second World, which, oh, by the way, obviously, the world is like, quote-unquote, destroyed after this. This is an apocalypse. And we start over, right? The Second World. There was breath upon the emptiness. So clearly everything went to shit, right? After the First World. And now we're starting to like repopulate. People are trying to come back. The god of the forest sent forth demons. The sun merely spread the embers of war. Okay, so how I interpret this is after everything went to shit the first time, there was like no one in control anymore. And when people started like coming back, people who were powerful started trying to just conquer everything. And what I'm thinking with the god of the forest sent forth demons. So one of the few things we know about Emu is that they grant power to their elders and give them like demonic forms. As we saw when Emu killed Saturn, it wasn't a devil fruit that gave Emu their yokai abilities. No, sorry, they gave Saturn their yokai abilities. It was like Emu's power. Emu could like drain the life force back out of them. And that would explain how they live so long and why their power seemed to work differently from everyone else. So I think the king of the forest might even be Emu, if I'm being honest. It might just straight up be Emu. I don't think so though. Firstly, because I genuinely think Emu is a female. I think she's a girl. But also, I think it just might be Emu's power. I think the king of the forest has the same powers as Emu, but it might just straight up be Emu. And the sun merely spread the embers of war. I think we have a new Nika user here. I think they could never meet again means that Nika died in this battle. Joy Boy died. Some new Joy Boy eats the Gamu Gamu no Mi and becomes Nika. This Nika knows about what happened last time, or just doesn't like the fact that the forest god is like spreading their demons everywhere and goes to war. This is where the idea of this destroyer Nika comes from. Okay, the people of the half moon dreamed. The people of the moon dreamed. Humanity killed the sun and then ascended to divinity. Okay, this part is interesting. The people of the half moon dreamed. That's the moon that we saw Enel go to, the holy Earth, because we saw that it's hollow, right? I think that's what it's trying to say. Because we know that the world of One Piece has multiple moons. We saw that the moon that Enel went to was hollow. And also that people could live there. So I think that it's saying that different people from different moons like dreamed of a new place to live and came here. And I do think that might be what this is. This could very well be like the second picture, and this might be the god of the forest. Although this would probably be part of the first book because it's the hell worm versus the... I don't know, is that supposed to be Nika? I don't know. Anyway, back... Sorry, I go on tangents, I'm sorry. I am so certain that this is where the Sky people come from. The Skypeans, the Birkans, and the Shandorans. But this is kind of a little to go on, and so let's leave this for now. Humanity killed the sun, and then ascended to divinity. Okay, so if we go by the idea that Emu is the king of the forest, humanity killing the sun. Because remember, this is the Void Century, right? This is the Void Century that we are not allowed to know about right now. I think this is saying human kings turned on Joy Boy and won. I even think this is like the depiction of that. I think... Oh, this might be... Emu, actually. I even think that... Like, this is what we know happened. That Emu and... their 20 kings went to war with Joy Boy, and Joy Boy died. So humanity killed the sun, aka Joy Boy, and then ascended to divinity, becoming celestial dragons, basically taking over the world. Which, again, adds to the Emu is the forest king idea, because Emu was already taking over the world with their demons, and now they've essentially claimed godhood by calling their people celestial dragons and gods. So the god of the sea became enraged. We do know that the ancient weapon Poseidon and Joy Boy had a relationship, and that Joy Boy expressed sorrow over not being able to fulfill a promise he had made the old Poseidon. So I do think that this is talking about the ancient weapon Poseidon, and taking that into account, I do think that a lot of the gods here mentioned might also be ancient weapons. Like, I think the god of the earth might be Pluton, right? So whoever used to be Pluton. Because I don't know if you've read this. There was this fan-made series of One Piece chapters where the Library of Ohara and a few others tried their best at, like, predicting what would happen at, like, Reverie and stuff. And they came up with a concept that I always really liked, and I think is going to turn out to be true. That Pluton is not just a ship. Pluton, just like Poseidon, is a person. And remember in Thriller Bark, those giant rock monsters that we saw in the shadow monsters that we saw in the background? I think those are like rock monsters. They are mountains, and they can be controlled by Pluton. I think Pluton, the ship, was built to fight against the actual Pluton, or at least to have a similar amount of power. Or just propaganda again, because it's One Piece and it might just be propaganda. Anyway, regardless of that, I do 100% think that this is Poseidon. They could never meet. So I think that Poseidon became enraged and sent their sea kings against the world government. And this might even have played a role into why the world is flooded. They might have literally just flooded the world. As we know, the ancient weapons are the reason there's so much water in One Piece. And if you look at the mural, we see the battle against the world government, I'm pretty sure. We see all the races. I think this is Joy Boy's own crew. And then a ton of other pirates. We see giants. We see warriors of Elbaf. We see minks. We see fish people. We see whatever that is. We see Lunarians, I'm assuming. Which, by the way, Lunarians definitely also come from one of the moons. We see a horse guy. We see Emmet. And this giant, by the way, I am 1 billion% betting this giant is Ors. Look at the hair. Look at the horns. Look at the size. Emmet was gigantic. Joy Boy was gigantic. Ors is bigger than both of them together. I am 1 billion% certain this is Ors. And they go to battle against what I'm assuming to be, well, in this paragraph, the Forest King, right? And humanity that's supporting him. Oh, and obviously Wano as well. So a question that I do have, though, is the effects. We see sun powers here as well. We see rain. This might be Poseidon, actually, because they're riding the whale, and the rain might be like representing Poseidon. But we see the sun powers that we saw over here. Does that mean that they have... Well, I do think that means that they have, like, fragments of the old energy supply, right? Which is why they can use like Emmet, right? Which is why he functions. They had so much energy that there's enough left over for them to use for, like, I don't know, centuries. And obviously, I think this is Emu, or the Forest King. But my question is, why are they holding the sun? Are they holding the sun to symbolize that they kill Joy Boy? Or is it simply to show off their power? I don't know. I do think that will become clear with time. Just like in the earlier one, there are some parts where we just do not understand it, and I think it will make sense in time. This is one of those things that will make sense in time. One thing that just hit me is that we know Oda loves his silhouettes. Again, if this is Emu, this might be Emu's demons. And it might even go back to book 1, where Emu might have created, like, the worm from hell. Or, sorry, the serpent from hell. That might be, like, the dune worm that one of the elders can turn into. This might be, like, another one of the creatures Emu can turn someone into. Or it might even be the bird. And just, no, there's no beak. I don't know. I'm not ruling anything out. What's interesting as well is that Joy Boy has the exact same shade of black as a silhouette that is used for Emu, but I don't think that really matters. They could never meet again. I am curious if this is referring to the sun and the sea god, that they could never meet again, but obviously this is following a theme, so I do think this is referring to someone else. Because, okay, if we say that the sun and the sea gods are always trying to meet, because we know that the sea god is like the mythological reason why devil fruits users cannot swim. Like that was mentioned in like chapter 5 or something, that the sea god hates devil fruit users and sinks them. And now obviously the sun god is very important with Luffy. But if it's my problem with it, if it is the sea god, because it could be, right? That the sun god and the sea god are always trying to meet, is what is Luffy's relation to Sarahoshi? Like, this is like a algebra problem. We have some of the variables at the end, but we don't know what X, Y are, but we know that we know what the sun and moon gods are here. I'm rambling, let's move on. In the third book, the third world, there was void upon the chaos. The unbidden shadows remember the days of the promise, and they hear the voice of the fragmented moon. Okay, so first things first. There was void upon the chaos. I think this is just straight up saying they're gonna cover up the truth. The void century is like, all this is covered up. Book 2 never happened. The chaos that happened in book 2 is now a void because no one knows what happened. It might also say that like the fighting stopped, but like I think it's that they covered it up. The unbidden shadows. So that might just be pointing out like, obviously the shadows, we see the shadow creatures here. We always see the shadow creatures when Emu started, was creating his demons. It might be that. I don't know. It's like, it's one sentence here, which is really weird. I'm gonna ignore it for now. Remember the day of the promise, and they will hear the voice of the fragmented moon. Okay, the promise is obviously talking about Joy Boy promising to help the fish people. Okay, so the promise was obviously that Joy Boy promised the sea god, Poseidon, of his time, that the fish people and merfolk and all that would be able to live on the surface. And like, that's what the Noah was for, right? Like, they built the Noah for that promise. And they hear the voice of the fragmented moon. Okay, this might just be a different moon, because we know there are like 15 moons orbiting the One Piece planet, and this might be the factory moon. It might also be that the half moon, or just the moon, is now the fragmented moon. The thing is, we just don't know anything about the moons, so it's really hard to actually say anything about them. I'm going to skip this for now, but the promise is 100% about Poseidon and Joy Boy. This is supposed to be the future, right? Maybe it's saying that they'll throw all the fish people to the moon. That would be funny, actually. Actually, never mind, guys. Turns out we can't solve racism. You guys can go to the moon, though. There's like 15 of them. You can chill there, right? They'll hear the voice of the fragmented moon. I think that is like the army that we saw being created on the moon is the voice of the fragmented moon. I'm pretty sure. The god of the sun dances and laughs, guiding the world to its end. Finally, something straightforward. This is obviously talking about Luffy. Luffy is here. He's a silly little guy, and he is going to play a major part in the end. This is saying his quest for the One Piece is what's guiding the world to its end. He's gonna be there fighting for the One Piece, and that's gonna be a big deal. We set up all these characters, and we know that there's gonna be a giant war for the One Piece at the end of the story that, according to Oda, will make Marineford look like baby cakes. That is going to be the quote-unquote this era's apocalypse. the sun will return and a new dawn will come. So, okay, obviously, new Nika is here, it's Luffy, and it's a very big theme in One Piece. Luffy brings the dawn. The dawn of a new age. The dawn for everyone who's stuck in the night. Like, Luffy brings the light. Luffy is the sun that everyone can orbit around. And I do think this is saying, like, this time things won't go to shit. Luffy will be able to stop it. And a personal theory of mine that I know a lot of other people have as well. The Will of D, it definitely stands for dawn, right? Like, especially now that we have this ancient book about the apocalypses of the world, as well as a fortune telling for the future. D stands for dawn. It's 1,000,000,000% what it stands for. I will die on this hill. So this is definitely like the Will of D coming in for fruition. They will surely meet again. So, again, I've said a few ideas for what like they could meet again could mean. Or they could not meet again. I think that we haven't met the person who Luffy is supposed to meet, or who Joy Boy keeps trying to meet yet. Because, like, I'm thinking, and okay, Luffy is supposed to meet someone. Genuine question, who has he not met? Aside from, like, Emu and, like, characters who the other Joy Boys clearly met, like I'm assuming the elders, like Joy Boy, everything like that, and characters who are dead and won't come back, like Roger and Odin. Like, who has Luffy not met yet? Another reason I think we just haven't met this character is because Oda has said that he wants to save very piratey traits for special characters. Like the stereotypical wooden leg, like the hook hand, big hat, eye patch, you know, all the pirate stuff. He wanted to save those kind of traits for important characters. For example, we know Seth has the peg leg, Blackbeard has the giant hat, and the, well, black beard. Crocodile has the hook hand, and we all know that's Luffy's mother. We haven't seen anyone with a parrot yet, but one thing that really strikes me as odd is we haven't seen anyone with an eye patch yet. And I think this character might have the eye patch. We, like, remember this? When we figure out who this character is? They will have an eye patch. I'm calling this now. 2025, January 30th. Or, okay, I guess it's 31st now. It's been an hour, so it's past midnight. Yeah. Looking back at the painting, I do think that this entire paragraph is the second book, with this one being the first book, because we only see two, and this was apparently drawn by children. I understand that they can, like, draw what's happened, right? But I don't think some children are going to be able to draw what's going to happen. So I don't think anyone's drawn book 3 yet. So this is the first one, this is the second one. There are definitely multiple Joy Boys, which is why everyone has a different interpretation of Joy Boy. The Serpent from Hell might be one of the Forest King's demons, because I get the idea that the Forest King is a already established character here, right? Maybe not, I don't know. I don't know what this dragon is. The slaves made a wish, and the god of the sun appeared, but the god of the earth became enraged, and alongside the serpent of hell, enveloped world in death and darkness. So either this is Joy Boy, which, you know what? I believe that Nika can turn himself into a dragon. Nika can do anything they want. They don't care about the laws of reality. They can do whatever they want. So maybe it's Nika fighting the serpent from hell, which again, maybe those shadows we saw in Thriller Bark are like serpents or like demons from hell. This might be the earth god, who together with the serpent from hell is like bringing a ruin to the world. You know, it's weird. Hell really isn't mentioned that much in One Piece. Like, it really isn't. Well, okay, never mind. It kind of is. Brook, like, gets his powers from hell. Does hell just straight up exist in One Piece? I always kind of figured that they were not being literal with it, but you know what? Maybe it really is real, and there's a big serpent there. This has been a really weird and fragmented discussion surrounding this chapter, which, by the way, has been great. Like, this chapter, even excluding this final image, absolutely incredible. Love the chapter. It's great. So, the fact that it absolutely killed the Blackbeard has the Cerberus fruit theory is genuinely hilarious. I think we all need to take a second to like mull this over. Do tell me what you think in the comments. I've spitballed a lot of ideas and I will continue to come up with new ideas. So maybe I might make a follow-up to this video. Do tell me what you think in the comments. I am genuinely so curious. Stay jinxed.